Welcome to the Gun Show. Woohoo! Episode 6. And it is brought to you by Greyman Solutions, Greyman Solutions.net. They are an American holster company that comes up with solutions to your holstering needs. Today, we have a special guest. Super excited to have her here with us. I'm Crystal Reese. We have Shauna Martinez holding down the fort, and our special guest today is Kerry Slone.
Hello.
Hello, Kerry. I'm going to give
Welcome, Kerry.
I'm going to give them your long list of accomplishments, and I'm sure I'm not even on the tip of the iceberg. She is a recent USCCA certified firearms instructor. She's the founder of We the Female. She's the national director of 2awomen.org SAVE program. She is a Second Amendment, civil rights survivor, self-defense advocate of all of the causes. Kerry is up in it. She is very active on all of the social media platforms. You can find her Stilettos and Shotguns. Very entertaining. If you follow her for a week, you will feel like she's your bestie. So I'm so happy
Thank you.
to have Kerry here with us.
Thanks.
Yeah, welcome. We are going to start with our gun news for this week. Shauna, take it away.
Well, the story is this one here, is that in St. Louis County of Missouri, there was a gentleman at the drive-in car wash, do-it-yourself kind of thing. And he's there cleaning his car, and kind of save a little bit of money, vacuum it out, start washing it and everything. Well, two guys came rolling up on this guy and basically held him at gunpoint on one side as the second guy came into his vehicle, stole his phone, and started ransacking his car. So in the position he was in, he was able to maneuver his gun and actually shot one of the suspects. And then the second suspect that was across from him opened fire on him. So there ended up being a gunfight happening. The one gentleman that opened fire that backed up, took off running, was picked up by the third suspect of a vehicle in the vehicle, and they took off. Basically, the second robber and accomplice were arrested on Monday following this by finding these guys because of the phone. They tracked the phone and found the suspects. Now those two suspects are actually going to be charged with, plan stealing the car, target the man at the car wash. The two are charged with first-degree assault, first-degree robbery, vehicle hijacking, along with second-degree murder for the death of the first robber. Now the kicker I have on this matter, why are you washing your car at 1 a.m?
Hey,
are you asking for it? I don't understand.
We don't victim shame here. All right.
Okay, I'm not trying to.
No, you don't victim shame, but so that being said, as somebody that teaches situational awareness and defensive mindset and so on and so forth, without other information, like what kind of car it was and so on, among some other details, was this a targeted hit? Because that seems to me like that's a very specific place to be. Was he there waiting for someone else for something? Is this a drug deal gone bad? I've got questions. And when did this happen?
This actually happened on August 30th.
I think you're going to see more details come out about the quote unquote victim. I'm not victim shaming. He has every right to defend his life. And
that's Saturday night, early Sunday morning.
And that's a castle doctrine state. So they don't, it's different, right? Their castle doctrine in Missouri covers property as well. I don't know if that means vehicles when you're out from your property, but castle doctrine isn't just inside your home, it's your property as well. Mm-hmm. So here in this state, if they weren't shooting,
which is where? Here is where?
I'm in Washington State. So that would be a little bit more of a gray area. Him shooting the bad guy. There'd be a lot more questions involved with that. So I got some questions about that. So I'll be curious to be watching that case as it comes out a little bit more. I'm glad that he was able to save his life and defend himself.
Yeah.
And the nice thing in his position is that they're actually charging the other two suspects for the shooting of that third suspect.
Now, just as a side note to this and a friendly reminder, this is the same district attorney's county that tried to charge the McCluskeys with brandishing and all of that kind of stuff. So this is the same county.
How can we forget St. Louis?
And she's under investigation now for corruption and so on and so forth, because she charged them with a crime that wasn't a crime. So there's something
for herself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go. I dig all the legal stuff. That stuff fascinates me. So
we will nerd out on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Washington put their name on a list of states that support the magazine capacity ban. So we've talked about this in previous episodes, but the big debate is California and their capacity. They lifted it kind of. And they're still trying to figure that out. Well, 17 states put their seal of approval on this. So I'm going to list them because I want you to know. So it's Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico. That one surprised me.
No, not me.
New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington. What's interesting is only 8 of those states currently have magazine capacity bans.
So on the magazine, the standard capacity magazine ban law, I was there to testify. I didn't end up getting to testify because there were so many of us that showed up. It was amazing for the first time in probably ever, honestly. The pro-gun people outnumbered the anti-gun people probably 2 to 3 to 1, and that's unusual. But here's the thing about that. For those of you that think that that's great, and it did work. So we were able to get it tabled, and they pushed it back. So they did not do anything with it, and nor did they do anything with the assault weapons ban here. Here's the kicker with this. When you see people, there's this false sense of security when people see if there's a victory in keeping a gun law at bay, right? They're like, we won, we killed it. You didn't kill shit. That law is just going to go on the table until they can get some way to figure out how to get it through. So as Ken Blanchard, who I've got an amazing amount of respect for, he's definitely one of the OGs in the gun advocacy world. He said, gun rights advocacy is evergreen. It's never going to stop. You're always going to have to keep fighting for it. And I just thought that was such a great, isn't that great line? Yeah. So like we have to make sure that we are voting accordingly and making sure that we are voting. And in some cases, you're not even going to get these people out at the state level. You're going to have to get them out in your counties and your cities and your school boards, right? You got to start there because those are the people that become your state representatives that then become your U.S. representatives. So sometimes even your state people have become so powerful that it's hard to get them out of office because people, just the way they vote. And then if you live in a state like I do, where people are more obsessed about voting for the letter behind the name because they bought into that, you've got to change it. You got to hit it at the kneecap and work its way up, and then hold them accountable on the way up.
Which this is actually you're discussing what I was going to talk about later, but you're hitting that point because I see all of these people protesting, and actually let's segue into it. We all remember Richmond, Virginia. Mm-hmm. It was about a year ago, and they all, maybe it seemed about a year ago, 20,000 gun owners show up, and it was amazing.
There were 40,000 there. My husband was there.
Oh, well, the numbers said 20,000.
Yeah, there were about, so my husband does.
They cut the number in half on reporting.
Right. So my husband does physical security for countries, cities, and that kind of stuff. So that's part of what he does for that is estimates crowd numbers.
Oh, okay. Well, there was double what the news wants us to think there was. So 40,000 gun owners in Richmond, Virginia. And they won that small battle. Well, guess what Richmond, Virginia did?
Yep.
during COVID.
Yep, scared you all into wearing masks and then signed it into office.
Just this last week is their city council voted in and approved an open carry gun ban.
Yep.
And they said it because, the riots, you're having these riots and then you're having pro Second Amendment gun owners that are protecting the shops with their guns in open carry. And now they're saying you cannot do that in Richmond. So stupid. Ugh.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Right? How are you going to enforce that? But that's what they said and they approved it.
Especially because even the cops are like.
Yeah. The cops aren't even going in there.
Yeah.
They're all on the outskirts.
It's silly. I mean, the cops are not going to come in and enforce that. That's a joke. That I'll tell you, when you see shit like that happen, here's what that really is. That is somebody's up for re-election and they want you to think that they're actually doing something.
That they did something about it.
Right. And so that they can say, we did this, even though it means literally nothing. So the responsibility of we, the people and the citizens, is to be out in your communities and among your peers that think that this is a good idea and just explain to them. Don't be combative, be a resource. Don't be an adversary. And you get to your moderate people, right? Don't try to get to the extremists because you're not going to. Don't waste your energy. But if you get to those moderates and you get in their head, then they'll start getting to the other one's heads. But that's where you get that from the backside and you say they literally did nothing that matters. And that's how you hit them with that kind of thing. So that's the strategy, the effective strategy.
So ultimately, bringing that around full circle is, you can show up in large numbers like you did at Washington, like they did in Virginia, but it's not a one and done. Like you have to continue looking at who you're bringing in. Shauna, you got any other news for us?
According to what I'm finding on here, there's supposedly one Democrat left in the in Congress that is actually for guns. So I was kind of surprised to hear about this. But yeah, so as of recently as 2010, fully 25% of the congressional Democrats received the highest ratings from the NRA. Now it's less than 1%, with more than 90% of Democrats getting an F from the gun rights organization. And I'm like,
who's the last one standing? Where are they from? Can you find that?
That's what I was trying. I thought I saw it in here. Let's see here. They're not saying who it is.
We'll have to find them. We'll put it in show notes. Do a follow-up. Find your last Democrat pro 2A, which is a bummer because we don't want this to be a partisan issue. We've talked about this before. Your right to protect yourself should not be.
Yeah, the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights are nonpartisan issues. The thing about the right, that focus on thank you, on right, like that, the first focus was at the Congress, right, United States Congress, right? Those people have very, very, very little to do with control over you and your guns. So everybody gets distracted with that, including the NRA. The NRA is part of that bullshit that keeps you distracted at the federal level, but the laws that are changed, the ones that are going to affect your life and your gun rights are happening in your states. That's where your battles are. Your battles are not at the federal level. They can't even agree on a budget to give people money to be
that work for the government.
Yeah, like don't sweat that, right? Like pay attention to your states. And that's where, I'm sorry to say this, but we're going to call it out. That's where NRA lobbyists are literally sitting with lawmakers writing gun laws. I've watched it happen myself with these eyes. Mm-hmm. So, and that's why, so for all of the reasons why people, the NRA is taking a lot of heat right now. I'm not somebody that thinks that the NRA needs to be dissolved. There are things that the NRA does that's good. We
need to dissolve certain leaders of the NRA.
No, we need to dissolve the entire executive board. The entire executive board needs to go. All of them, every one of them. And there's like 15, approximately 15 of them. There might be 13. I don't remember, but that all of them, not just LaPierre, but all of them need to go. So, but that's what they do, is they're keeping you distracted with that. But where the battles happen, where you can create change, is in your state, not at your federal level. Most of those people that are in Congress at the federal level, they've been there so long, you're not going to be able to get rid of them. Unfortunately, you have to make sure they don't get there to begin with. And that's where you start in your state.
Dun, dun, dun. Kerry giving us tips and tricks of our Second Amendment fighting, which is what we all need to hear. You're really good at it. And most
Thanks.
of us, we know to call our local legislature, and we know that, write letters, but there's more to it. And so I like hearing.
Did you know that that your school board can overturn the gun-free zone regulation for their school district?
I didn't know that, because Utah did.
Right. So that's a great example of how local change and working at the local level can create change. But those school district people, go back through like your politicians at your state level and even your U.S. level. See how many of them started in local city councils, mayors.
That is crazy. I didn't realize that school can get to. I never made that connection. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. So.
Well, the last little bit of gun news from me is kind of a fun one. Well, I mean, fun and not. So this defund police, Austin, Texas City Council, we're talking about the locals again, they defunded massively their police force.
Yep.
So I'm going to share screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube. What did the local Texas law enforcement do? They made a billboard. It's a huge billboard. They put 2 of them, and it says, "Warning, Austin police defunded, limited support the next 20 miles.
Wow.
As you're going into the city, they have these huge billboards just saying, guess what? This is lawlessness that you guys asked for, and we're not coming to support you. Like,
that's brilliant.
Really defunded us. Isn't that?
That's brilliant. Yeah. I love it.
I thought that was just so funny. I mean, sad that it's happening, but I'm like, yes, way to.
Well, I don't remember what state it was in, because when it happened, I was in the middle of a bunch of stuff up here, over the last week. But so I don't remember what state it was. But I read the headline that one of these cities that defunded police and started sending social workers in, one of the first ones, it might have even been Minneapolis. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember what it is. But the social worker got shot by someone that was mentally ill.
Oh my.
Yeah,
but really, why would you think that's a better alternative? People, anywho.
Because they've never experienced it directly themselves. There's so many people I've come across personally through certain counties I've lived in, especially here in California, and they talk so much saying that they know about it or they understand the circumstances, and then you ask them the questions of, how do you understand? How do you know about this? Have you personally experienced it? Did you live it? Did you go through it? Have the cops always been at your door or in your complex or any of the sort? No. I'm like, where did you grow up from? And they tell me the city, and it's like, you have no crime there. How do you know anything about this? And then it's like, but this is how it's supposed to be done. I go, yes, and we're supposed to pat you on the head and send you on your way out into the real world to tell us how we're supposed to live in the real life.
Which reminds me of a conversation I had with a woman about, she was saying, you don't need a gun, it's safe, and you're just being paranoid, and blah, blah, blah. Basically the debate. And she said, she was in her 60s. I've never felt threatened for my life, and quoting her life experience of why she doesn't need a gun. And I paused and I said, that is so awesome that you have lived a life, such a beautiful life where you have never felt threatened once. Like, that is awesome. Go America. I personally have had to pull my gun out and brandish because I've been threatened with my baby. And so we have two very different experiences. And do not take my right away from protecting myself, because you have lived this beautiful life, this sheltered, protected life. I mean, not saying my parents aren't amazing. They're amazing. But, just life. I've been places.
Just because she's lived a sheltered, protected life doesn't mean that at some point she couldn't have her, have that all change. Right?
Yeah. It's just one day. One day makes you change your mind.
1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour.
Minute.
Exactly.
Or drive to the next town, which is honestly, when you're in Orange County, LA, you're honestly in another city within moments, not realizing it. But did that person actually go there because they've been told it's a bad neighborhood? I mean,
my family's from Orange County. Yeah.
I'm from Orange County, so I understand the area.
You legit go from Orange County to East LA, South Side, like South LA, like this.
Yep.
Like you end up on, like all of a sudden you're like Westminster, and then a few miles up the road ish. I'm exaggerating, but you're literally on Crenshaw. Like it's not, it's true. Oh. Like all of a sudden you're like, look, all of these beautiful $1 million homes. You're like, oh shit, I'm in the hood, and it is that it is that fast there.
It was the same going down like when you're Westminster into Garden Grove, into Garden Grove. It's like, wait, I want out of this. Don't go here. And then you Costa Mesa, Santa Ana. That's intense because you have Newport right there.
A lot of money there.
Like very
and
much
you go
money.
Up the coast, and you just go straight up the coast a little ways, and you got Long Beach, which is
yes, it's pretty interesting how quick you can move into different areas.
Very quick, yeah.
So now that we're talking about it, Kerry, what got you into firearms?
Ask me that again, I'm sorry.
What got you into firearms? Have you always been just two-way lover? Like how?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've never been afraid of guns. I grew up around guns my entire life. My grandfather had them. My grandfather was from West Texas, Midland, Odessa. So, literal old West kind of stuff. So the rifles and shotguns were loaded always around us, and the stash, the cache of them, the gun cabinet was in the kids' room, unlocked. We knew not to ever touch them, right? Because we were taught how to properly act around guns. That being said, so I've never been afraid of them, but actually, like in the gun world and gun ownership and my love for them started a few years back. When I spoke out against 1639 here in the state. I had owned my own firearms, my own handguns prior to that, and had had been shooting and stuff, but not to the level like in the industry, in the world, and in the community and stuff. That started just a couple of years ago. And but I've always been fiercely 2A. I'm very, very anti-party. If you are familiar with me at all, you know that. Or if you're not familiar with me and you're going to be soon, you'll see that. Don't ever assume that because I call out Joe Biden that I'm a Trump supporter, or if I call out Trump that I'm a Biden supporter. I'm fiercely anti-party. I've never voted party line in my life. I don't. I'm a big believer in, and that's like you had mentioned, civil rights. There's a lot of misconceptions and ignorance around the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And you hear a lot of people talk, even in the gun world, which makes me nuts, how they say that these are our constitutional rights that the Bill of Rights gives us. No. Everything that's in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights are fundamental human rights that we were fortunate enough in the United States. We were fortunate enough to be born here in a country where our founding fathers were smart enough to understand that and guarantee us these rights under the Constitution. And it would behoove people in the gun industry and the gun community and gun owners in general to understand that and understand that these are your inalienable rights as a human being, and that every single person on the planet has these inalienable rights, not just you, and not just the people who believe in your political beliefs either. You can hate Antifa. I have personal reasons why I absolutely can't stand them. They just murdered my friend in Portland. The gentleman that was murdered there was a dear friend of mine, not just an acquaintance. And so I don't I'm not down with them at all for many reasons, but I have personal, issues, right? But I would never, and this is very controversial, but this is where people in the gun world need to like get a grip, right? They have just as much of a right to own a firearm to defend their life as I do. It is not my responsibility to disarm them as a human. Now, it is my responsibility to be better trained than they are, so that when they make the stupid decision to pull up on me, it isn't going to end well for them, because they have now decided to go on the offensive and use their firearms for something offensive as opposed to defensive. And then that's when the game is over. And so I get accused a lot of being Antifa or socialist and this and that. I'm like, no, I believe in the fundamental right of self-defense for every human being. The minute that you abuse that and go on the offensive, game over. And that's my responsibility to myself and my family and the people that I'm around, is to make sure that I'm better trained and mind my own business and not try to regulate other people's inalienable rights. And it would also serve the 2-8 world well to understand that there's more to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution than just the Second Amendment.
What?
I know. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. There's more to the Constitution than the Second Amendment, yo. It's there.
But
I know y'all don't like hearing that. Blows my mind. People are like, but they don't have a right to assemble. They don't have a right. They're protest. I'm like, they kind of do.
You can assemble, and freedom of speech
and religion and all that kind of stuff, and due process, and and I take a lot of heat for that, right? Like even with domestic violence and all these types of things, right? I mean, I'm a survivor, and so it's hard for me to say this, and I've taken heat for this too. But I can sit and watch this violent encounter, which bothers me to my core. But I can still, and I know that the piece of shit's guilty, and frankly, I think that the woman should have been trained. But there are many, many, many reasons why she may not have been, or couldn't execute what she had trained in. There's a lot bigger reasons for that. But that person is still an American, even though he's a piece of crap or whatever, right? A douchebag, and he's still due his Fourth Amendment. And that's a hard one for a lot of women to swallow. That follow me. I get into some heated conversations on occasion about that. I'm like, but I would say the same thing for you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just because I know they're a douche doesn't mean that they're not still due their constitution.
You can't instantly convict someone.
Correct.
Even with the video.
Even with the video.
No. Can't do that.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm just so like grasped onto everything she's saying right now. Like, oh my God. This is keep going. Just keep going.
Riveted. Fascinated. just speak to me, Kerry.
Okay.
Just kidding.
It's one of the things that I'm hoping to, and we'll get into this in a little bit about, when I became an instructor and stuff, but there's a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, as people see this and this gets out there and this video spreads, I'm not pooing on anybody. So just stop. Don't be dramatic, and don't try to start shit about stuff you don't need to start shit about. That being said, there's a lot of people in advocacy that don't understand policy, and they don't understand the Constitution, and they don't understand how all of these things work together. Well, I'm a I'm a college dropout of political science and wanted to be an attorney. So my nerdiness has been a lifelong passion. My husband is a historian. I'm a history nerd. So we understand American history. So we're very well versed in understanding the Constitution and understanding how it affects people and how it doesn't affect people, how policy affects people. And a lot of people are very short-sighted. They say, well, the policy says this. You're right, it does. Like the TAPS Act, right? Dan Crenshaw popped back on me on social media once because I called him on his crap. He says, TAPS Act isn't a gun control bill, and you guys keep this. And I said, no, it is not. You're right, it's not a gun control bill. I know what it says. But what it does is it opens the door for red flag laws through public schools and people's children. And he never responded. So it's important for us to understand not only how policy is written, but how it's not written, because they do that on purpose to leave doors open so that they can come in and manipulate the situation from the backside. Thank you
And
for
to
coming
clarify,
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
to clarify, when I introduced you, I didn't state that there's other aspects of you. You own 2 businesses. You are very savvy, even if you're because people might be like, oh, she is just this advocate, but you are not just an autodidact. Like, you don't just study things for your own. You live life experiences and have worked with policy and law and understand the inner workings of that. And you are a mother as well.
I am a mama. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a commercial real estate investor. I own a day spa. I was homeless at one point in my life. I lived in a tanning bedroom. They moved to have a day spa of this salon I worked in. It was an old Victorian house. Was this salon that I worked in, and they moved the tanning bed out, so I had a room to sleep in because I had nowhere to go when I first moved to this area 20 years ago. And I went from living in a room in a closet at the business that I worked in to owning some of the most prime real estate in my town and one of the top day spas in Western Washington. So yeah, I understand business. I understand how to create opportunity. I understand how you need to be able to move.
Read the lines and figure it out.
Yeah. For 25 years.
You play the game. You're good at playing the game.
Yeah.
Speaking of domestic violence, I really wanted you to answer or discuss this because I hear a lot of people saying, if you are in a domestic violence situation, you should learn how to use a gun because the bad guy, your ex, is going to come at you, and a lot of deaths are from that. But then I also hear the flip side of those minds are mentally fragile and you shouldn't let them have a gun and whatnot. So give your 2 bits on that.
So let me ask you right quick first, though, from the side that are telling you that they shouldn't have guns, who are you hearing that most from?
I would say more anti-gun people in general.
Okay. So you're not hearing that from instructors or anything like that?
No, it's people who already...
You should be. And here's why.
No, I'm not hearing that.
So here's why. Let me clarify a couple of things. There is some validity to domestic violence victims and survivors having firearm access and what that looks like. When you are a lot of times it's because people don't understand domestic violence. So when you understand domestic violence, then you can understand why, right? So you've got to, like, that's a whole other conversation, right? So to make this as succinct as I can for the time that we have, is when you're in those situations, right? Most people equate domestic violence to actually physically being hit, and they don't understand that being physically hit is like closer to the end game of that, or right, you can live in that in years, but you've lived for months or years, usually years, before it actually becomes physical. And all of these little pieces, all this time till it gets to this physical bar, right, have made you in your head completely twist around that you legitimately and truly to your core believe that the reasons that you are being beaten and the reasons that you're getting yelled at and all these things is your fault. So, for example, as a survivor, when I was laying in my bed with pneumonia right after I'd gotten beaten up in November, it was on Thanksgiving, and in end of January, I developed pneumonia really bad, obviously stress, and from being injured, I was pretty injured, and stress, high amounts of stress, flu season, all of it, and I was still working, mind you. I was a single mother. He came to my home to beat me up, and which I'll get to in a minute on that whole other conversation. But so I ended up, I was in bed. I was very sick. And when, of course, because he knew that, my ex, right, he kept calling me and harassing me, and I literally 104-degree temperature. I was carried in. The last thing I remember going into the hospital is that the gentleman I was dating at that time carried me in because I couldn't walk, and they immediately put me in a room. And then there's a bunch of blank space in there. I don't remember. So that's how I was very sick. And he kept on henpecking me, right? And I got to the point where, remember, I'm already out of the situation. I've called the cops. This ball is rolling. But I still sat there and in my head said, I know that I did the right thing, but I wouldn't be going through this had I not called the cops. If I had just let it go, I wouldn't be going through this. So I was still at that point blaming myself for something that he did and that he should not be bothering me with, right? So understand that that's where most victims are. So when we're talking about arming victims, we have to understand that the reason that that's such an important conversation is because that gun can be used against them if they're not 150% ready to be able to use it to defend their lives.
Yeah.
Now,
would you have used that gun if you had a gun, would you have used it being
in that situation? Probably. But the first time he hit me, no, he would have been able to take it from me and use it against me had I had one at that point. So here's the narrative that the gun control world loves to use, right? Moms demand in every town and Shannon Twats and all that, they love to use this language. A domestic violence victim is 5 times more likely to die at the hands of her abuser if there is a firearm in the home, right? Have you heard that? Like, we've heard that a lot.
Yeah, but we don't know whose gun that is. That's
okay. I'm gonna say it to you again. Okay, I want you guys to listen close. A domestic violence victim is 5 times more likely to die from her abuser if a gun is in the home.
Doesn't mean it was being used.
They're not saying by gun. Right. They're not right. So they're using that statistic that there was a gun in the home, right? And so we're noticing that victims die, or 5 times more if there's a gun in the home, not by gun. So here's the thing about abuse that you have to understand. Abusers don't want to kill their victims, just like stalking, right? They don't want to kill. Stalkers don't, right? If they're in love with them and they're stalking because they're in love with them, right? They don't want to, it's a control issue, right? And so with abusers, it's a control issue. And it is when a victim tries to leave her abusive situation, or his, that, happens both ways. It's when he tries to leave his abuse, or she tries to leave her abusive situation, that it tends to escalate toward violence and can potentially be deadly for her. So it's a skewed and manipulated language that they're using, and it's super frustrating. But that being said, until she's of the mental capacity to be strong enough to understand that she,
it's not her fault.
It is not her fault. So what I like to say is, like, with my organization, right, and then the SAVE program that we work with, the SAVE program provides with 2A Women, that program provides scholarships for domestic violence survivors to receive their firearms training. But what I'm currently doing, and I've got it about halfway done now, is I'm in the process of writing a training endorsement for firearms instructors, for you to be able to do a quick eval on a domestic violence survivor or assault survivor even, to make sure that they are mentally ready to own a gun to begin with, because that's part of how we self-police our own industry, right? And if she's not, what are some resources and ways that we can help her so that she can still defend herself in a way that she's going to be able to do it until she's ready for a firearm? Now, 2 things happen with that. The first thing that happens is you've developed a connection with her, that even though she may be pissed at you, right? Because some of them are going to show their
protection order.
No. A lot of the women are going to show their insecurity when you deny them. When you say, I don't think a firearm's for you, right? They're going to lash out at you, right? They're going to be defensive, right? But at the end of the day, what you've done is you're developing dialogue, and you're going to create trust. And so part of that program that I'm writing is, how do you do that so that later she'll come back to you? Because that's about creating relationships and trust. I'm trying to work on this to get it in for law enforcement too, but we'll see how that goes. So there is some validity to that. And we have to make sure that as firearms instructors that we are identifying that. So like my organization, We the Female, what we like to say, like my little taglines are, arm the women with education, confidence, and self-defense. Well, that came out of me being a survivor and working with survivors and understanding that I can't arm the women until they understand that they have the confidence to know that they can educate themselves and defend their own lives, right? I have to get them in the mindset and have the confidence to be willing to defend their own lives first, right? That their lives are worth saving before I can get a gun in their hand and teach them how to use it properly.
And
So
they're
basically,
not
you're
at fault.
breaking them down from the actual. So you're taking the victim, you're breaking that down of what has happened to them, reset them to the matter of rebuilding them up as a personal side of empowering them, giving them confidence to let them understand and educate them that they are not, what they were told or what has happened prior. And then now you can get to the next level of actually being able to give them a handgun to train them that way.
So to a certain degree, right? I mean, we are not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, right? So that's not our job.
Right.
But it is our job to make sure that we are, connecting with people. I'll have to check that. It was a text that came in from some friends of mine that are friends with Jay, and that they don't text often, so unless something's happened. So, but she didn't call, so we're okay. It wasn't a phone call, so I don't need to go. But so I mean, that's not our job, right? But it should be our responsibility as firearms instructors to have those resources available to these victims, and to find Pro 2A therapists, and they're out there. There's actually quite a few of them out there, and to create that network. So I would love to be able to create that network of those therapists that are willing to work within this as well. But if they're so broken, right, if they're fresh out of it, or you're arming them, right, because a lot of them are like, well, just get her done while she's in the house. Probably, if she's still in the house, the chances of her being willing to use it are probably not going to end well, right? The one exception to that is if they're abusing the kids, right? Because that's usually the trigger for us mama bears, right? Is that that's our button that tends to snap.
Yeah, you can hit me, but once it comes to the baby,
to the kid, the game's over, right? But some women are so emotionally broken that they can't even stop that. So, but typically that's the one that'll snap the button for people, right? For women anyway. But you can't. So there is some validity to that argument.
Do you know the statistic of, because I hear this a lot, oh, the gun will get used on me. That's a fear for women in general, not just domestic violence. But when I look up, try to find cases where the good person had their gun taken and used on them, it is like, I cannot find that. Do you have any information about that?
Crimeresearch.org. That's John Lott's website. So, looks like is it down, or do I need to reload it? You've been redirected too many times. Try clearing your cookies. Anyway, go to crimeresearch.com.
It's Collin.
So that is
here. I'm going to share screen. You tell me if this is it. Dun, dun, dun.
You can follow him on social media too. Yep, that's it.
Okay. It's like, I don't know if it's someone's personal setting. Okay.
Yep, that's it. I got a lot of windows open, so my computer's probably like, nah, Brad, you got to fix some stuff. So it's but he's a good resource for that sort of information and counter.
To see if we can find that, because I hear that all the time. Oh, they're going to use the gun against me. The bad guy will, and I'm like, where are the facts supporting that? That's
not how you ask them. Ask them if they know somebody personally that's ever happened to,
or they've heard of a story.
Now,
a legit story. Have you heard that?
But you can hear about it all day long, right? We can hear about something on the internet or on Facebook all day long. So ask them, do you personally know someone that's happened to? They're going to say no.
I don't.
Right?
And I've never even read a story on that. And I've actually tried to look that up.
I'm sure it exists.
I'll do some more research. But yeah,
I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure it's happened, which takes me right back to one of my earlier statements of that is why you need to be better trained.
Yeah, I've seen it where people were concealed carrying in their back, and bad guy grabbed it out of their back holster and then used it. I've seen that.
That's Darwinism
in video.
Well, I ain't got no sympathy for that. I have no sympathy. Look, it's no. Been heard. Doesn't hurt. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible, right? But God, if you're that dumb that you let the bad guy give you a reach around and took your gun, I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you. It's also why your ass, you no situational awareness, and you're carrying in your ass crack. Let's talk about all the problems that this is. Like, this is not like Bye, Alicia. I have time for that.
Oh my gosh.
Like that should be in everybody's curriculum for what not to do when you're as a firearms instructor. I mean, come on. And the funny thing is that you guys are kind of laughing, which is funny. I mean, obviously I'm kind of being a butthole, but I'm not wrong.
Oh yeah.
Right? This is just like, it's an uncomfortable truth that a lot of people don't want to address. But if you were thick enough that he got to that gun, what
my
else
other
is wrong
question
with
would
you?
be so my question for Crystal on that one there, that you've seen the video or something like that, right? Has that person ever gone through any classes of their firearm, or do you think they just bought it and then they just moved forward?
That's exactly what it was. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's a good point.
I try to look at both sides. Like where did this person, it's like buying a car. You don't have a license, but you bought a car. So can you drive the car? Or can you drive stick and automatic? Let's take it to the next level. So it's like buying a gun. You have the gun, but people are like, okay, I got a gun, now I'm good. And I know we're trying to come out and say, look, you have the firearm. Today's now kind of more of an important day of any day to actually start learning about that firearm. Because I have a feeling things are going to get kind of nasty here in California, especially more towards the cities. Hopefully it stays down in the cities off our mountain. And home invasions are possibly going to be happening. Holidays around the corner.
Well, they are happening, especially with the fires. The looters are going in.
Intense.
And like my cousins most of my family's in Oregon. I'm the black sheep, and they're messaging me about how their neighbors are getting broken into and all of this Antifa. I don't know who they are, but people are going to vacant
I like to refer
homes.
to them as Antifa.
Antifa.
or Anquifa.
But they're setting these homes on fires, these vacant homes. I mean, they're doing things that are crazy.
There's been a couple of arguments about that, but they think that the arsons are actually the big fires, other than the dipshit with the gender reveal. Way to take away our explosives, you a-holes.
Right? My husband said the same thing. Tannerite is never going to be able to overcome that.
Way to go. Way to take away our toys, you idiots. Did you see that Trump's tweet that Melania is pregnant?
What?
Yeah. They're going to do a gender reveal party by blowing up North Korea.
Oh, shut it. Oh my
I can't take credit for that. My husband read it.
You got us both. We were like,
I know you guys were like, what? He sent it to me. I'm going to post it actually because it cracked me up so much. But it's a fake. It's one of those fake Donald Trump tweets. I love those things. I think they're hilarious. And I'm not a Trumper at all. But he can be kind of savage. And I think he's kind of, at this point, I mean, he owns the media. I mean, he just owns them.
Yeah.
And I think I can appreciate his savagery. So I could see him punking them and saying, but it's a fake one. It's one of those fake tweet things. But we talked about, I'm a new firearms instructor, and the women that have been coming, I'm teaching my third class tomorrow. Half of my students are over 50. Half of them are over, most of them are in their late 60s, early 70s. And a lot of them, I know, it's awesome. Awesome. I love these grannies out there. They're badasses.
We call them Granny Oakleys. Granny.
I'm totally taking that name. I just so you know. I love that.
That's our trainer, Sandra, actually, and I loved it too. I'm like, oh, Granny Oakleys.
I'm gonna get I've got somebody able to design his t-shirts to say that, like Granny. Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that. Well, and here's why. So now I'm going to share something fun with you. So I have a couple of students that one of them is over 75 and the other one is in her early 70s. And so they were buying all these guns, right? I've seen more snubbies come in from these women than now. One of them, I posted a picture of them, right? That was all in one class that I had 3 of them show up. Now that one is that's a vintage one and that's a pretty one. Did you see that chrome one?
I did.
She inherited that one. Yeah. But the other 2 had never been shot. The other one hadn't been shot in decades. And so they were given these guns. Most of them can't even get the hammers back. And now that vintage one was very nice. They're kind of nice. I'm not a revolver girl, but I was like, well, this is kind of a nice shooting gun.
Yeah.
So, and they just make you feel cool. There's something like it's right. I love all that Old West stuff. So my grandfather kept an old Colt on his loaded Colt on his nightstand. So I have a heart fondness for them, even though I don't like shooting them.
Nostalgia.
I did shoot the new Python at SHOT Show. Which, by the way, only has about the recoil of a 9mm.
That's a pretty penny, man.
It was
freaking
beautiful.
expensive.
It's a gorgeous gun, and it shoots beautifully, which is a bold statement for me with revolvers. But so and then one of them, she's got severe arthritis, and she brought an LCP, and she couldn't get that thing. I mean, she couldn't rack that thing back at all, and her family's like, "We'll keep it just in case." I'm like, "For what? To throw it at them?"
And the recoil is gnarly.
Well, we call them snapping turtles. Right. So because I carry the 238, and her name is Abigail Adams, and she's, and if you follow me, Abigail is my trusted partner. She goes with me everywhere. But the SIG as a 380 is heavier because it's all steel, right? So it doesn't have that same recoil. So all these women, like SIG should give me a contract for all of the guns that
right? We need to become
selling.
FFL dealers. We're working on that.
I think, so these ladies, so one of them, she came out for a private lesson, and I was working with her daughter, and my husband, who runs RSO for me, he said that she was standing up by her chair and she was going like this. With her hands.
Oh, with her hands. Okay. I was like, was the gun pointed at her face? Okay.
No, because I taught her how to, or she found a gun she could shoot. And if she finally, because she was getting frustrated because she had severe arthritis in her fingers. Severe. Oh. And so we got her, she can, like, good, who cares? Like, don't worry about the caliber, you can shoot the gun, right? Mm-hmm. And so she was standing back, like, doing all Charlie's Angel stuff, he said. And he comes over, he's like, y'all better watch when Susie gets into the neighborhood watch in the homeowners association. Nobody better be leaving their garbage can after she's doing this. Then another one, the one that's almost 80, this is my favorite. She messages me after her class, and she says, Kerry, I love that class. And she said, the next class we need. Now, she hadn't shot a gun.
She's texting you, and she's over 80?
Almost 80, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. She's pretty cool. But she texts me, so she bought this snubby. She can't shoot, hates it. She wants an Abigail. She goes, I want to work with Abigail more. I need me an Abigail. And I said, I know, I'll get you there. And she said, and we're going to need a class. So the first time she ever shot a gun, remember, was at this class. And I get this text message saying, we're going to need a class on how to clean and maintain our weapons.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's awesome.
Please. Awesome.
That's cute.
I love it. But what's cute is that most of these ladies, like, I think that's kind of where they're kind of like, no, I'm done with this. And they know they're older, right? They know that they're not going to physically be able to take them. Yeah. So I think that's in their mind. And I think that there's a huge disconnect for the older, student.
Well, a lot of these women, their husbands, they die before them.
Right.
They're a single widow.
Yep.
And they're suddenly, they depended on their husband their whole lives.
Yep.
And now they're like, I'm by myself.
Right.
I have to protect myself. And I love that. That's what we do. We arm the ladies.
Absolutely. One of the ladies that is asking about this, she's 76, and her husband is home and alive, but he has Parkinson's. And he can't take care of her. So she's like, I see this happening, and I'm going to have to do something. She never held a gun in her life. And I cleared out Abigail for her and put Abigail on her hands. And she goes, what? I'm like, everybody likes Abigail. Like,
what's your gun? What do you call the Abigail?
What is she?
Yes.
It's the
For those
6 hour.
listening.
It's the 6 hour P238 micro, 380 caliber.
My main carry is the P938.
So
Shauna, what gun do you carry again?
I carried the Shield 40. I like my heavy caliber.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a. Do you out of waist carry?
She's in California. She can't.
California. So in waist.
So you wearing big shirts or what? How are you hiding that, girl?
Well, I'm a little bit of a big girl myself, so
yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I just thought you were happy to see me. Where are you putting that gun?
Actually, I just kind of, the waistband, my pants, kind of thing.
In your back?
No, I like to make sure I can feel it in the front area.
Me too. I like it in the front.
Way to go.
You started it.
You get the most attention. The best attention on the front.
I too like it in the front.
I too prefer it in the front. I prefer the access. I don't know. It's just easier. It's quicker. That's awkward.
Oh man, you could tell it's getting late.
Yeah. So this was my first purchase, though. Here.
That's your Kimber?
This is my Kimber, and hold on, because I don't like I don't put my serial numbers for it. So this was my first purchase, and I don't want to get you guys in trouble because I know there's something about YouTube and guns. I think you can hold them, right? You just can't shoot them or something like that.
You can shoot them too. You can't sell them. Okay.
So this she's my first gun purchase, and so the hubs is like, really, you picked the BMW as your first gun.
Yeah, that's true. Those aren't cheap.
Especially when they're Gucci'd out from the manufacturer.
It's cute.
So isn't she cute?
It's so pretty.
I need to actually put a new slide a spring in the slide, because it's even the hubs has a hard time racking it back. It's just tight, and we just can't loosen it up. This conversation just keeps getting more immature. but I honestly think there just needs to be a different slide because it is that tight. So I don't carry it for that reason. And I do have a Glock now. I don't like Glocks, as you guys know, but
you bought a Glock. Oh yeah, you did. I saw, because one of your students said she liked the Glock.
Oh my gosh, wasn't that the funniest video?
Blasphemy.
So that is the daughter of Charlie's Angels and the HOA. That was that day, actually. So I got the 19 G3.
I was going to get
I'm
the
not
43.
a huge Glock fan. I'm wicked on with them. Like I'm actually a good shot with them. But I just don't like the way they feel, which is always the thing, right?
Uh-huh.
But for those of you Glock lovers out there, you guys think they're so awesome that you change every part on them.
Right?
She went there.
I'm the same way.
I said what I said.
You can switch this and switch the trigger and this and switch the sights. I'm like, why do I want to spend that much for a gun that I have to spend more to switch it out? We need Michelle on here to defend Glocks.
I know.
She's a Glock girl.
There's no defending Glocks. I'm teasing. Anyway, I do like shooting it. But side note for instructors and just people that shoot and stuff, that I kind of had a fun little opportunity with this. When we got them in, I went and picked them up, and then we did this private lesson. So I hadn't had a chance to run any ammo through them because I'm not going to hand them to a student straight from the FFL, And so I had an interesting moment where I ran some rounds through it, and it's not a gun I carry all the time. It's not something I'm used to. And I'm a slapper. I can be a slapper. I get a little heavy on the pull. But of course, when it's a newer gun to you and you're right, that's easy to happen. So it was fun for these gals to watch, because I think I put 6 rounds through it, and each round went
slowly closer to the center.
Yeah. So I mean, like, look at you, and I said, that's because I'm learning the gun, right? And I'm learning how it fits and how I need to like adjust myself around the gun. And so it was this cool moment where they got to watch me correct myself, which gave them the opportunity to see, you'll be able to do that, right? So you can, if you screw it up, you're going to be able to figure it out, and you'll be able to figure it out on your own. It was just one of those moments that kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And it was awesome that it happened, and thank God I didn't blow it. Could have been worse.
like all over the place. And
Hit it?
Now you
Is it on
guys,
target?
let me
Did we
teach
even hit
you.
paper?
It's always nerve-wracking when I am teaching a class and then I'm like, okay, I don't know, maybe I want to step in and shoot. And they're all watching me. I have like 10 of my students and I'm like, all right, this is go time. This is putting my money where my mouth is. Okay, and let me show you what's up. But yeah, there is something.
Not gonna lie, halfway into my day, if I'm tired, right? Because it's mental, right? I mean, I'm learning, right? Because I'm a new instructor. I've been a teacher my whole life. I run an apprenticeship program. So like part of my other life, I couldn't find good nail technicians or skin or estheticians. So I developed a program. I have an apprenticeship program. I was the first in my region to do that. So, and I've been a public speaker, women's conferences and teaching all my life. So teaching is natural to me. That's easy. The shooting part is I'm okay. I'm not great. But I work to get better. But I can teach somebody how to run a gun. Mm-hmm. And teach them how to run one well. It turns out I'm coming to find, thank God. But I'm honest with myself. But especially halfway through my day, if I have to shoot, I'm grabbing that 22. Like I'm not even gonna pretend. And I'm like, well, and for right now, part of it is just the ammo. Like,
right.
I'm just gonna run 22 because I've got buckets of it, and I'm not, I don't worry about running out of ammo. I'm not going to just go exhibition with 9mm right now.
But that's important to know and be honest and be okay in that. Like we get that a lot, especially as women. People will say, and we're not law enforcement, we're not military, we're not whatever these ideas that people think are a qualification. But we are not teaching law enforcement. We're not teaching military. We're teaching women like us. And we have learned this skill and we are showing them that they can learn that skill too. I'm not
and that's
teaching
also why they
that.
come to us, right? They don't want those people. That's why
we're
they're coming
relatable
to us, because they're intimidated by that. I am the only female firearms instructor within about an hour and a half-ish of me. I'm the only non-NRA nationally certified within like 3 to 4 hours.
Oh, I'm sure. Because USCCA is not all over yet.
It isn't all over, and it's definitely more in the Midwest where you are, through those kind of areas. But it isn't everywhere. But I'll tell you, when you see their program and you see their basic.
I know. I'm going to add that someday. I'll get it.
I taught one yesterday, and then I'm going to do I did one for the lady's family that donated for free, because obviously she's donating the property to me. And she took an NRA class before. She goes, they didn't do any of this. And I said, I know. They teach you how to use your gun, right? They teach you how to break it down. They teach you how to clean it, which is cool, right? That's good information. But at the end of the day, especially right now when so many women are buying guns, I can make that the next class. Right now, I need to get these women, I need to get them comfortable with a gun in their hand and knowing how to use it and clear.
Like tactical. USCCA focuses on more tactical. Or not tactical, but concealed carry.
Use of force, situational awareness, the trouble you'll get into if you end up using that gun when you shouldn't be using it. And all of those, that more holistic, and that's just not taught, and that's super important.
It is taught in the NRA, but you have to take the basic pistol, then you do the home defense, then you do this. Like it is a lot. There's a lot of levels.
Well, you can make it the program however you want it to be, with this, but their fundamental concealed carry class, as opposed to the NRA one, is much like, part of it is because they do insurance, right? They get that whole insurance side of it. Mm-hmm. So it's a backdoor thing for them. I get the racket behind it. We can't have that in Washington State. But
you
here, USCCA is not available here. So that was one of the things and so this is, hey, speaking of legislation and policy, this is one of the things that y'all need to watch in your states. Your attorney generals and your insurance commissioners can work together, and they will get laws passed that do not allow you to have self-defense insurance in your states, therefore trying to backdoor gun control. So that's what they've done here. So I have US Law Shield here. And the reason I have US Law Shield is because US Law Shield is legally and technically not insurance. You have one of their attorneys on staff that they pay. And they are now, once you pay into their membership or they pay into their organization, that attorney in your state becomes your self-defense attorney. Like it's having your attorney on retainer. So here's the thing, right? And people get ugly between like USCCA and US Law Shield, like the people working. USCCA definitely has been more negative toward US Law Shield than the other way around I've seen with like people working in the business. But here's the advantage and disadvantage to both, right? USCCA is insurance, right? You need self-defense insurance. You've killed somebody. You've had to use deadly force to defend your life. You're going to get a check to help cover your expenses. That's cool, right? But if you just had to use deadly force, your kid watched you do it, your kid's melting down, freaking out, you're getting charged with manslaughter, right? And you've got to clean up your house or whatever, right? Whatever the reasons are, the last thing you want to do is try to find your own attorney, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, in terms of just straight self-defense coverage, U.S. Law Shield all day, any day. There's also no cap on it. It's just side note on that.
So now that everyone knows.
Yeah. So that being said, well, and I'm giving you the non-part, right? Because I'm a USCCA certified instructor, but I'm partnered with U.S. Law Shield because they will pay for me to travel to teach defensive mindset and situational awareness classes. Because what I teach in that class, which has nothing to do with the gun at all, teaches you how not to need them to begin with, kind of a thing. So it's a kind of holistic kind of deal. So
you're double dipping, Kerry.
I'm not double dipping because I can't be a member. But if I could be a member, I would be a member of both. And here's why. I would be a member of both because I would want the attorneys. Look, y'all. If U.S. Law Shield attorneys got George Zimmerman cleared, just telling you, that's how good their attorneys are. Right? I'm not going to comment one way or the other on whether Trayvon, like that whole story. I'm not going to give my opinion on that one way or the other. But
look it up.
They were his attorney. That was over $1 million case. Now, mind you, that was a high-profile case. But to give you an idea, that being said, if I could have USCCA as well, I would, because then I would use that USCCA money to clean up my home or for any of the other things that I would need it for.
Other
so they do work. So it doesn't need to be one or the other. And a lot of instructors I know have both because it's just worth it like, why not? I mean, I would do both. Insurance is one of those things or anything like this. It sucks until you need it. And then it's invaluable, right?
Right.
And for me, it's worth, I think for the hubs and I, for U.S. Law Shield, we pay maybe $300 a year, $350 a year, but I'm covered in all 50 states because I travel. So if I have to protect I have a lawyer in all 50 states.
And I think USCCA is like $150 a year, something like that.
Well, it's tiered. So depending on how
you can
much
pick
coverage
which plan you want.
Yeah. And I don't poo-poo it. I think it's great. I think their education structure is phenomenal.
Well, we have spent a good night chit-chatting. We have covered so many topics, so many. And I knew that was going to happen because it's just, you're a jack of all trades. You're in everything.
Well, I don't want to be a jack of all trades because I want to be able to know what I'm doing in each one of them. So I don't want to pick all of them.
A Renaissance woman.
Well, thank you. Never been called that before.
When you consider firearms, and that's why it was so hard when we were discussing what you would even talk about, because it's so hard to just focus on just one thing when you're so passionate about multiple facets. And I love that. And that's exactly why we wanted you on here.
Thank you.
You will definitely have to do a follow-up though. It's been really fun. We will end.
I know this has been fun. I've had a good time. The other thing, when the case, I'll let y'all know, or you'll catch it.
Yeah.
When the case, it hasn't hit the news yet, but it will. The 1639 case. We can
do a follow up on that. Yes, for sure. I would love that. So, Shauna, give us our armed citizen.
Oh, so Armed Citizen is coming out of Texas this moment.
Of course it is.
And he's actually a gun store owner. This gentleman is 77 years old, and in most cases, he's just chilling by himself in the store. And 4 young men decided to come in, look like they're looking for guns and start asking questions. And by the time he's pulling out another gun, he has a gun to his head. And they're demanding him to go to the ground. Well, as this gentleman is a Vietnam vet, he's a Marine, he's of age. He starts faking a heart attack. Okay, so I'm just like, dude, this is incredible. He fakes a heart attack, pulls out his gun because he goes, I need my pills, I'm having a heart attack, I gotta get my pills.
And they freaked out.
He goes for his gun. Yes, so they kind of like backed off, which is interesting. He pulls his gun, shoots one of the suspects, and in the shoulder, they all ran, but they still got away with over 50 firearms.
Wow, that's a lot of firearms to get away with.
Wait, 50?
He almost Kenosha-Kyled him in the arm.
They estimate 50 stolen firearms from this gentleman.
Crap.
So I'm trying.
So they must have had
understand.
him in a hold for a long situation while they're going back and forth.
Or one was just
Yeah.
throwing guns in a bag, right? I mean,
But there's 4 of them. So you have a driver, you have someone on watch, one holding the gentleman down, and the 4th one, if not one of the other 2, loading everything up. Yeah. You know, you're grabbing cases, you know, boxes or anything of the sort. And obviously, previously working in a gun store, your safes are open, you know, as in placing your guns, what's purchased, what's not purchased.
Well, it's Texas, right? So they're out like soda on the counter, right? I mean, they're just like, you just walk by and grab a pack of potato chips and a revolver on the way out the door, right?
That's super resourceful, though. I love how he was so creative. I would never have thought something like that.
Will you send me that?
And you don't in some cases, but the only thing out of the story that's kind of like a little disturbing to me is the news. Again, we all look at the news and it's like, come on, guys, you don't need to be seeing that stuff. They announced how he is generally always by himself of the gun store.
Jesus
so
Christ.
Now they put him in a position where now he has to think about security, a second body, a third body within him for himself. Because who's to say they already got that many guns? Because we had an incident here in my local town of that kind of situation from a Central California city gang coming into our place, robbing our stores, you know, and they found them, thank goodness, and they retrieved most of it. But now this guy's going to be looked at as like, hey, this is a good place, let's go hit him, you know?
Oh,
so I have a question. Here's the real question here. Here's the real question. Two. When did this happen?
According to this, the report came out today, actually this morning.
Where the hell is this dude that he has 50 guns in his gun store right now when people are selling out a 1911?
It's Texas. They already had their guns.
Well, that's why I'm so. Like, everybody's selling out everything everywhere, and this dude's got enough inventory.
He's got this inventory, this stash.
But I honestly think
Texas
if you're
is holding out on us.
Yeah, if you're a gun store owner and you got the money, I think you're going to be the first up to get the guns to your store before other people. I think the money is talking. I do. Yeah.
I called my guy and I said, I need the 19, and I need a Smith & Wesson MP 9mm in the Easy. And he says, you want the 2 most popular guns in America right now? And I said, yep. Can you make it happen? He says, give me a few days. Let me see what I can do. 24 hours later, they were on their way to me.
That's awesome.
Connection.
So it pays to know people in Chicago where they need guns. So MJ Firearms, I'm going to totally plug him because he's amazing. MJ Firearms got me those guns. And he is an amazing young man. Young, was like actually has a whole like story behind it. It's extraordinary. You should look him up. Michael Waller. But he was able to procure those for me. So, but I think you're right. And he had to find them from another FFL, right? But they've got a tight network that they can work through. So it pays to stay out of the big box stores and know people
Yes.
that know people, even more importantly right now. So,
Well, thank you. This has been so enlightening, so fun. And we will some good laughs.
like enlightening. Jesus, I gotta go drink now.
I have some good snippets to pull from as teasers. We have quite a bit of good ones this chat. It has been awesome, and we will see you soon on social media, and we'll be back at you guys with the gun show next week. Good night.
Bye.